Do you know the term ghost fat syndrome? I didn't, but it's a concept that makes sense if you ever had major weight loss. Today I'm taking you into a world that for many is their everyday life. For others, it isn't. Living with overweightness. In this podcast, you will meet a woman who lost so much weight that the outside world could not recognize her afterwards. So much weight loss, in fact, that she had to replace her entire wardrobe. When the weight loss involves the condition ghost fat syndrome, which is also called phantom fat syndrome, then I get curious about it. What condition causes that? What does it mean? Welcome to the second episode of my podcast, From Thoughts to Transformation. My name is Tina Norby, and I'm known as an entrepreneur in language and communication, and I have a master's degree in NLP and hypnotherapy. After this story, I will give you a body scan meditation where you can build body awareness. Challenge your negative thoughts about your body and yourself. I will press the self-love button so you can give yourself a huge boost of self-care. Now I want to ask you something. Do you know anyone in your circle of friends who has had weight loss surgery? Maybe you had one yourself. You may also be one of those who think, why have weight loss surgery when you can lose weight in a natural way? People who are fat can just pull themselves together. It's just a matter of changing your mindset. Eat less, move more. Yes, that's correct for some. And it can be successful for some. But what if you tried again and again and again, one diet after another, had a personal coach and a personal trainer, but every time you lose weight, it goes wrong. You gain the weight back. Maybe you even gain more than before. The shame of not being able to complete a diet can be overwhelming. You hate your own reflection in the mirror. You hate yourself. You're above a healthy weight and it's visible. This was also the case for the woman I will now tell you about. She hated her body. Her whole world was about food and weight. One day she decided to have a stomach operation. And 14 days before her surgery, we met. I had heard about this woman was facing abdominal surgery, and I wanted to go along with her on her journey. In this situation, I was curious. So I picked up the phone and I called her up and asked her, "Do you have a therapist?" She didn't. It had taken her 3 years to make a decision, and she had saved the money herself for a private hospital because the government wouldn't provide that operation for her. She wasn't overweight to the required extent, so she had saved up, and now the time had finally come. She had her date and was ready. We call it our walk and talk. Here, she could let the words flow freely, and so she did. She opened up about all her attempts to lose weight, the entire dieting, and reference from the internet, but it always ended the same way. When she reached weight loss of 12 kilo, it stopped. It made me wonder, why exactly 12 kilo? Why couldn't she lose more weight when it was her wish to lose more? I suggested a regression with hypnosis to delve deeper into it. She was curious, and so we decided to get on with it. We started the therapy in her safe environment at home. We didn't know how many sessions would be needed, but the most important thing was to help her on her journey. As I said, she has not been offered therapy by the hospital where they had to do the stomach surgery, and it made me curious. Why are people who choose a private hospital, or even those who have surgery through the public system, not offered therapy before or after surgery? It is an operation that changes your life from one day to the next. Just imagine this, your whole stomach is changed inside. So what happens to your entire digestive system? Just try picturing it for a moment. And if you're someone who feels or senses, then feel it. Your stomach is getting smaller. You can no longer eat the same amount of food. You need to think about how much food you should consume, and you can no longer drink with your food intake. But she had chosen it herself. Yes, she had. She knew the consequences of the abdominal surgery. But are you always prepared? It is one thing that the doctor prepares you for it. However, it is another thing when it happens. Well, back to her story. Her fight was intense. She had struggled with overweight for many years, which affected her quality of life, both physical and mentally. She felt trapped in her own body and doomed to a life of limitations and health risks. She had tried countless diets and exercise programs with no lasting results, reinforcing her sense of defeat and lack of control over her weight. The repeated failure led to overeating and comfort eating as a way to manage her emotions. But during the therapy, a deeper cause emerged, an experience from her early childhood that she did not remember or she had forgotten. Through hypnosis and regression, she was taken back to a time when she was sick as a child. It was a surprise to her, but it was a turning point that helped her understand the causes of her overeating. So what is regression? Regression with hypnosis is a technique where I guide her back to past experience or memories. The purpose of this technique is to find the cause of current problems that may stem from past events, and by relieving these experiences in a controlled and safe state, she can process and release the emotions associated with them. We went back to the time when she wasn't fat or had the feeling of not being fat. We came back in her teenage years, a time in her adult life just before she found her husband. And we came even further back to an episode in her childhood where she sat and ate with her mom, dad, and sister. She found that she hid potatoes in her mouth and hid them in the napkin, and later spat them out in the toilet. She hated potatoes. She still does. She was probably about 8, 10 years old. She went back even further, all the way back to when she was sick. She was about 1.5 years old, which is what she experienced. She had a fever and couldn't eat. She was on hospital. Her mom and dad were not allowed to be there, but a grandparent came to visit once a while. They stuffed potatoes in her mouth, the nurses, when she wouldn't eat. She had to eat, but she didn't want to. She wasn't hungry. That was what her subconscious mind told her. After the hypnosis, we talked about her experience, but she didn't remember that she had been ill. We agreed that she should talk to her mother about it, ask her if it was a real memory or her imagination. After the first session, where she had experienced these memories from her childhood, she had now talked to her mother, and it turned out that she had been ill. So sick that she has been on a hospital and they were not allowed to be there. You were not allowed as a parent, so she had been fed by the hospital staff, but it was difficult. She did not want to eat, but if she didn't eat, she died. Therefore, the second session was about her relationship with her family, including her mother. She remembered how much it annoyed her when she visited her mother, even now as an adult. Her mom put food on her plate. She wasn't allowed to do it herself. Her mom made sure she ate, even to this day. But she was an adult, and it made her still feel like a little girl. We talked about the fact that her mom might also have a fear in her, some anxiety that might not have been processed. Her mom might still have a fear that she might die if she gets too thin. She suddenly became aware of the 12 kilo. Could it be due to an inner fear of dying? If I lose more than 12 kilo, will I die? We talked about the possibility and talked about how this could be the turning point for her. She no longer had to be afraid of dying from losing more weight. She could now let go of the past. Moreover, her mom should no longer be allowed to put food on her plate. Now it's time to speak up. And so it's important for me to say that when she had serious concerns or health issues, she always sought advice from qualified professionals. They were nurses, dietists, or doctors who she'd had confidence in. I was her therapist and coach. She had had a chat with her sister, mother, husband, and children, and the weight has fallen below 12 kilo. It's going well. The training is also going well, and we are practicing mirror image. She still sees a fat woman in there. The mirror is practiced by saying nice words to herself. Go out and buy new clothes, get used to a new size. Start selling her clothes or give them away. and the scale is put away completely. She no longer needs it. Before therapy and surgery, she went on a scale every single day, including at the gym. And it has taken time to put it away. It was difficult. But with practice, she succeeded, and her family also helps. Whether the therapy alone could have broken the circle, we will never get the answer to, as she underwent the surgery called a gastric bypass in the middle of the therapy. And what is it? Do you know what a gastric bypass is? I will tell you about it in a moment. I want to briefly talk about the difference between a gastric bypass and a gastric sleeve because they are two very different abdominal operations. Gastric bypass and gastric sleeves are two different surgery used to help individuals lose weight by limiting the amount of food they can eat. Here are some of the primary differences between the two. Gastric bypass. This operation involves dividing the stomach into a small upper part and a larger lower part, limiting the amount of food that can be eaten as well as the absorption of calories. Gastric sleeve. This operation involves the removal of about 80% of the stomach, reducing its sides to a narrow tubular structure. This limits the amount of food that can be eaten at once, thereby reducing calorie intake. Both operations can lead to significant weight loss and improvement in health. This woman chose a gastric bypass because she didn't want to have 80% of her stomach removed. Her operation took place shortly after we had started the therapy. The kilos came off and she went through the change she had wanted for so many years. But she quickly experienced a mixture of hope and fear. On the one hand, there was the thrill of having taken the first step towards a healthier life and a lower weight. On the other hand, anxiety arose about what awaited her after the operation, both physical and mentally. The post-operate period was challenging as the body had to adapt to the changes that had occurred. She experienced physical discomfort such as pain, nausea, and digestive problems. We agreed that she should keep in close contact with the nurse and dietist and ask all the questions that might arise so that she could feel safe. And the mental challenges were also there, as she now also had to rethink her relationship with food, deal with the feeling of the loss of a friend, the food as comfort, and social situation where food is a central part. She also had to deal with the relationship with family, friends, and her social circle, which also challenged her now that she began to lose weight. She was about to change her wardrobe, change her clothing sides in line, and get used to the new woman in the mirror. We worked with all that in therapy and it went up and down. She was already one who exercised many times a week during the period when the body was unable to do so due to problems with digestives and the intake of food, as well as dumping, which also happened in the middle of the process. Both me and the nurse focused on it, and when it happened the first time, she got another session on the couch. We went on and talked to her stomach, and the stomach told her that it was tricked by the great transformation. She had to be patient. After the session, things got better. She became more aware of eating more slowly, becoming more aware of what she was eating, but also that she could relax. The abdominal surgery had gone well, her weight dropped, and it went well at a slow pace. There are also consequences after a stomach operation, and one of them is dumping syndrome. Dumping syndrome is a collection of symptoms that can occur after a person has undergone gastric bypass surgery, and these symptoms often occur when undigested food moves too quickly in the stomach. Symptoms of rapid dumping include nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain or cramps, diarrhea, dizziness or feeling weak, flushing of the face or upper body, a rapid heart rate. Symptoms of slow dumping include dizziness or feeling weak, concentrated sweatiness, headache, confusion or difficult thinking clearly, feeling uncomfortable after eating. Dumping syndrome can be uncomfortable, but it can often be controlled by changing your diet and eating habits, such as avoiding foods and drinking high in sugar and eating smaller portions at a time. Sometimes medicine can also be used to help manage symptoms. It is important for a person who has undergone a stomach surgery, to work closely with their doctor or nutritionist to manage dumping syndrome and achieve a healthy diet and lifestyle. So we focused on that. She was given extra vitamins and minerals for a long period of time, and together with the nurse, they kept an eye on her. She taught herself when and how to eat and drink the best way for her, and in what order as well, as for discover what food causes her dumping. And together with me, we worked on her fear of the dumping and the fear of failure. But what about her social circle? Well, she experienced that people did not recognize her when she went out after she lost weight. And most of them started telling her that she shouldn't lose any more weight now. They were scared for her, worried. They became insecure, didn't know what to say. It was her experience when she talked about it. She found that she could not get small meals at restaurants and therefore had to ask for children's dishes because she could no longer consume large quantities like before. It created a bad situation when they went out to eat together as a family. Her children and husband were also affected as a family. The whole circle of friends was affected, not just her. It was also a new state of thing, but they got through it and time passed. She lost the kilos she had dreamed of losing and even had the first skin surgery. Just over 1.5 years after the stomach surgery, and not long ago she underwent a second skin surgery. The skin surgery is a consequence of the abdominal surgery and the large weight loss. Because when you lose a significant amount of weight, the skin can often not retract sufficiently, resulting in loose, sagging skin, especially around the abdomen, breast, arms, thighs, and buttocks. These skin folds can be not only cosmetical, bothersome, but also lead to physical and hygienic problems, such as skin irritation, infections, and limited movement. Therefore, a skin operation may be necessary to improve the patient's quality of life and self-esteem after weight loss. For her, it meant a lot, and she had trained to keep the skin elastic and neat both before the stomach surgery and the skin surgery. She had chosen to immediately focus on the entire process. And to that I must say, well done. After the stomach surgery, I asked her this question: was it worth it? And her answer was, well, it was all worth it. I'm so happy and I love myself more now. I can do much more. I can handle several things. Do not get as tired and short of breath as before. I have said goodbye to illness I could have contracted by being overweight. I can put on clothes and feel beautiful and comfortable without the clothes tightening. My closet today is big and nice, and I feel smart and satisfied in what I take out and put on. The old habits still emerge, and I do sometimes still have a sweet tooth, but I also want to live and be like others. I feel like a completely different person and feel like I've been given another chance. However, I still see the fat woman in a slender body. So I can see that I'm slim, but I still feel fat. Even though I can see that the mirror says something else. Mentally, my head is just not there yet. And that brings me to ghost fat syndrome. Ghost fat syndrome, when your body still feels bigger after weight loss. The term ghost fat syndrome refers to the feeling that this woman and also many others experience after a major weight loss. She still feels like she's overweight, even though she's lost a lot of weight. It can be described as follows. The brain still perceives the body as being larger or fuller, even though weight loss has actually taken place. However, phantom fat syndrome, as it is also called, is a perception or feeling of the mind rather than a physical fact. Some researchers compare ghost fat symptom limping, where a person after the removal of a body part still senses and feels the body part, even though it has been removed. We can also call it brain spin regarding what she experiences. This means that she still senses a fat woman in the mirror despite being slim today. Her vision, the notion of herself after weight loss, is unrealistic, imagined, negative, and disordered. They say the same thing happens when people have the disorder BDD, informally also described as body image disorder, where you have a negative perception of your body or parts of your body. And it is said that if you experience it, the condition can be difficult to remove, and some claim that the ghost fat syndrome never goes away, especially because some people tend to always think they are fat, no matter how slim they are. And that applies to all genders for that matter. Even though the weight loss has happened physically, it can take time for the mental image of the body to adapt to the new weight. This feeling still affects your self-image and self-confidence, and this means that you still have to work on your self-image because it can be a challenge to accept and get used to the new body after weight loss. This means continue to practice self-acceptance and positive thoughts about your body, focusing on your new healthy lifestyle and well-being rather than being locked into negative thoughts about your appearance. It is persistent work that is needed to go through this state, but with the right support and commitment, it is possible. All through it is claimed that ghost fat syndrome never goes away. I have several exercises you can use to get a more positive self-image. With them, everybody, including you, can practice a more positive self-image. We must stop beating ourselves up and allow ourselves to be a little gray and boring. Everything doesn't have to be black, white, all or nothing. Therefore, it is also important that when you set out, whether it's for weight loss, start living healthier, deciding to walk or run more, working less, set a long-term goal, because then you can reach your goal. If you have to do it all in a short time, there is a greater risk that you will fail. Before I end this session, my podcast, From Thoughts to Transformation, where I have challenged your thoughts and feelings, asked questions, shared my clients' habits, patterns, and behavior, I will introduce you to my next podcast, a body scan meditation to combat negative thoughts. If you have the courage, the body scan can open the door to your very own personal transformation. You can, with it, challenge your negative thoughts about your body and practice getting a more positive self-image. My name is Tina Norby, and I will always let the sound be the bridge between your inner and your outer. Until then, take care of yourself.